So hello everybody. Hope you all had good fun time. Yeah. So you're ready for the next session? Yeah. Are you all ready for the next session? Who's missing? Has everybody come, or are we still waiting for somebody? Everybody's here? Okay. So do you have any idea on what this session is going to be? What is this? You've not seen the timetable for today? No? You're going to surprise me. Okay. Jessica, you have any idea what session is going to be? It's on the board or on the PowerPoint. Yeah, it's going to it's an inspiration session, okay? So which means we're going to talk about things that would inspire each one of us to grow more closer to God and how to become an overcomer, okay? And to start with, I'm going to do a small demonstration of how each one of us have challenges and weaknesses, but how do we overcome them and become a winner? So as you all know, today's theme is winner. Is that right? Yeah? So we are all being called to be a winner. Do you agree with me? Yeah? But who's our enemy? Devil. And what is his plan? To destroy us or to make you to be a loser. Yeah, so the opposite of winner is loser, okay? So we're going to see how we could overcome the devil and become a winner for God. And to do this demonstration, I need two strong people. Thomas and one more. Ajay? You're not strong enough, you think? Come on. Come, Ajay, come. Abhishek, you want to come? No, I need, yeah, okay, that's fine. Joel, come. So pick one of the sticks from there. Do they come in front? Is it okay if they come in front? Okay. Yeah, come in the front. Okay, so the challenge for today is, stand a distance apart. So if one of you stand here, come near me, and the other one face the camera. Okay? And I want one weak person. Who's weak? Okay, come. So we've got a person who acknowledges that she is weak, okay? That's the first point to remember. Yeah, Nathaniel, what's the first point to remember? What did I just say? You forgot or you didn't listen? Okay, fine. Listen to me, yeah? So the first thing is, we've got a person now who acknowledges that she's weak, okay, to do a challenge. And the challenge is, both of you stand in a straight line. Just come closer so that, she can reach both ends of the pole. So you put one of your hand over there and there. So your task, you need to hold the pole so strong enough so that you cannot bring them to, you don't allow her to bring these two poles together. Okay? So basically, the challenge is you can do whatever you can to make it, stand strong. So both Joel and Thomas' work is to make sure that they don't make Adriel to bring those two poles to come together. Okay? Shall we start? Nathaniel, you need to be strong enough to do it I'm not. So let's all listen, okay? Okay, shall we start? Yeah? Okay. Put one feet or one feet over here, close it. Put it over here. Thomas, put it over here. Yeah. Okay, shall we try? Wait. Ready? Start. Okay. Okay, fine. You don't have to put so much force and hurt somebody. That's fine. Leave. Ariel, leave it. Leave it. So the point is, you on your own, with your weaknesses, you cannot do it. So don't strive too much, okay? enough, leave. Okay, so Adele on her own, she tries to overcome a challenge, but she cannot win because we as human, we have to acknowledge that through our own strength, we cannot do anything. But when you cling on to the grace of God, and now we'll see what happens when Adriel rely on God to complete this challenge, okay? Can you bring it down, a little bit down? You'll have to just do it like that so it won't. So Ariel is now holding on to a rope, okay? You can, yeah. So Ariel is now, Nathaniel, can you please stand up, please, and come and sit next to Joshua, please. Come, please. Quick. Okay. So Ariel has a rope now in her hand, okay? And that represents what? The grace of God. So now Ariel decides to rely on the grace of God to complete this challenge. And now let's see if she becomes a winner or a loser. Okay? Okay, come on. Put your strength on there, yeah. Put your strength on this, yeah, and do it. Don't break the pole. Leave it loose. Yeah, okay, fine. So it becomes easier when Ariel pulls it with a thread, okay? And so what we learn through this is when on your own, through your own weaknesses, when you try to achieve or to overcome a challenge in your life, it becomes very difficult and it'll never happen. But when you rely on the grace of God, yeah, there's a famous verse in Bible which says that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Can we have, yeah. So thanks, guys. You can, yeah. You okay?
I'll be fine, At least I won. That's what matters. I don't know about that.
Okay.
I did.
Thomas, can you just take this and put it aside over there?
What do you want to do to me?
You can leave that. So next slide, please. So in today's session, we're going to look at two characters, one from the missionary and one who served in the mission field and one from the Bible, to see how they overcame the challenges and the weaknesses and were used by God. Okay? Before we do that, let's read 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. Praise, can you read that for me? Do you have a mic for them, please? Yeah, Norris, open your Bible and let's read 2 Corinthians 2:14 as Praise is going to lead us with this reading.
2 Corinthians 2:14.
2:14, yeah.
But thanks be to God who always leads us in triumphal procession in Christ, and through us spreads everywhere the fragrance of the knowledge of him.
Yeah, so can we all read the ones that has been bolded in the PowerPoint? So be thanks to God who always causes us to triumph in Christ and in every place. Yeah? So what does Christ does for us? He makes us to win at all times and all places. Is that a promise for us from the Bible? Yeah? So the promise of God says that when when you have Christ in you, you will win at all times and at all places. So when we say times, at all times, what does that mean? At all times and all places means you will win at every situation, no matter what the circumstance is going to be and how big your weaknesses is going to be. Yeah? So every day you will become a winner, and at every place, wherever you are being placed at, you will become a winner if you have who within you? Christ. Yeah? So from this slide, can you tell me who are the two characters you're going to look at today? Gail? Elena Young and King Hezekiah. Which character is from Bible out of these two? Hezekiah. And the other one is from the mission field. Okay. Have you all heard about Elena Young? Yes? People who have been in our previous VBS session classes, I think you must have heard about her. So next slide, please. So Elena Young, as you see here, she was born fine, but then she was attacked by polio when she was 7 months old, where she was like crippled and she couldn't walk or stand or do anything on her own. Yeah? So who was Elena? How was she when she was born? Was she fine or was she not good? She was good when she was born, but then when she was about 7 months old, they noticed that she had polio and she was not able to walk, stand, or do anything on her own. And at that point of time, her parents, they knew that because the doctors told them that she will not be able to walk at all her life, and she will not be able to do anything on her own. And when that was the case, her parents, they submitted her to God, saying like, Lord, you created her and she's yours, and you may do what you wish. And at the same time, for Eleanor, her father was her hero because she thought that her father can do anything for her. But at this sad point of time, she realized that even her father cannot do anything because she's been admitted in the hospital, in and out of the hospital for almost several years, and she knew that she cannot achieve anything in this world. And at that point of time, Eleanor surrendered her life to God, saying that, Lord, I surrender my life to you, and I would do anything for you, and I would like to serve for you. Yeah, when she surrendered and when she did that prayer, so let's see what happened. Next slide. So when she did that prayer, by the grace of God, although the doctor said that she couldn't walk, but she was able to stand and walk with the help of crutches. Because initially they thought that she will be fully bedridden, but when her parents surrendered her to God, and when Elena realized that God is her only strength in midst of her weaknesses, and when she surrendered her life to God, they saw a miracle in her life. What miracle is that? She started to walk with the help of crutches. And when she did that, her parents were from our Christ followers, which means they take them to church daily. I mean, on every Sunday they go to church. And on one of such Sunday, there was a guest speaker. Okay? And the guest speaker, after his sermon, he made an open invitation saying that, who would like to serve God as a missionary? So what was the open invitation? Eric? What was the open invitation done by the guest speaker in the church?
He would like to serve God.
Who would like to serve God? Let them come in front. And whom do you imagine that, who would be the person who would have come forward at that point of time? What do you think? Who must have come forward? Eleanor was the only girl who was actually 12 at that point of time, came forward with her crutches, barely able to walk, and she said, Lord, Lord, I give my life to you, and I would like to serve as a missionary for God. And when the service was over, an elderly person from that gathering, he came to the pastor and said, to the guest speaker and said, sorry, pastor, it was just this one small girl who couldn't do much, had to come forward to say that she would work as a missionary, but none of the other people turned up. And do you know what guest speaker told? When the elderly person apologized for that, what did the guest speaker say? It's on the board. Whom the Lord calls, he will use. Yeah? So whoever God calls, irrespective of what situation you are, what weaknesses you have, if you have been called by God and if you have surrendered your life to God, God will promise you to use. And imagine what happened after that. So next slide, please. After many years, Eleanor didn't give up her dream. She went to different Bible colleges, trained her up, equipped her up, and at the end, she was able to do missionary in a mission field called a place in a mountain valley near Indonesia, which place is that? Can you read it out from there? Korubun, yeah? Korupun, where that is a mountain or a high valley somewhere in Indonesia. It's a very rural place where even normal people will find it difficult, to live there or to have a normal lifestyle in there because of the ruggedness of the mountains and the people. Because the people over there were completely ignorant of what's happening in the world. They were all confined to their own society. They had their own languages, which none of the other people in the world understand. And they're all very ferocious and fierce people, which means they would not accept any people other than their tribe to come near them or to try to really help them. But still, Eleanor managed to go there because God has called her. That is number one. And number two is she surrendered her weaknesses to God, and she trusted in God that if God can call her, he will also be able to use her irrespective of her weaknesses. So from Eleanor's point of view, what two things she did in order for God to use her? What are the two main things that we saw until now? Ajay? I don't know. What did Eleanor do for God to use her? She submitted her weaknesses. What was her weakness? Surrendered her life, but what was her weakness? She was crippled. She couldn't walk as how we can walk. She had to depend on something to move across, but still, she surrendered her weaknesses and she trusted God, and she had this passion for God. Yeah? So the first thing is what we'll have to do, or what we learn from here, is we have to identify our weaknesses, but don't dwell on that. But then surrender the weaknesses, acknowledging the fact that we cannot do anything on our own, but it's only going to be God, irrespective of what situation we are, that God will be able to use you mightily when you surrender your weaknesses and acknowledge that only Christ is your strength. Yeah? So the first thing is you'll have to surrender your weaknesses. Second, trusting God that God will use you irrespective of what situation you are. Okay? So what was the first point, Divina? Are you listening? Or you are living in some other world? So what was the first point? Surrender your weaknesses to God. And what's the second one? Abigail? I don't know is the answer from everybody. Why is that? So, okay, what was the weakness Elena had then? Do you all understand the missionary story? Yeah, what was the weakness? Polio, she couldn't walk. And what did she do with that? Did she sit in a place, locked her up herself in a room? Did she do that? What did she do? She had this passion to be used by God. And to be used by God, what should we do from our end? Surrender our weakness and ask God to use you. Yeah? So Elena then worked around 17 years in Khmer people, along with the Khmer people. Do you know what was her role when she was working within the tribe? No? What could be her role as a missionary? Any idea? No. So next slide. Okay, so the next slide doesn't talk about it, but her role in among the Khmer tribe is to do a linguistic job. So anybody know what's the role of a linguistic is? Translating, but that's more than, so before translating, so as I said, nobody knows the language, and there's no lessons to learn their language, which means they'll have to understand the sounding techniques of each of those, each of the, the language they speak. And Elena's job is to understand their language using the sound system and start writing alphabets, put everything into lesson, which means create alphabets for them, and so that they will have something in writing which will become a basis for Bible translation. Do you understand that? So what is a linguistic role? So imagine that, English doesn't have anything in writing. How do you teach somebody then? You can teach only by how you speak, right? And from how you speak, you capture the sounds, and you make it into a verbal, put that into a grammar, and then you write it as a letter. And that's how they came up with the letters for the alphabets for the Khmer language, and that became basis for translating the Bible. So basically, that's the role of a linguistic. So she started doing that, working along with the Khmer tribal people, but God also helped her to find favor in the sight of the Khmer people. As I said, they were all very ferocious. They will not accept any foreigners, but God helped her to find favor with them. These people, they carried her wherever she wants to go. They helped her to manage her lifestyle, which means anything that she cannot do in the normal day of living. They helped her to manage all those stuff. They showed back love to her, and that's how she was able to, finish her role, and also to start the translating the Bible. Next slide. So, how did Elena's way of Christian living impact others? How did God use her weakness to impact others? Yeah. You want to have a mic, please?
Is to show that like anyone, no matter who they are, no matter if they're disabled or anything, they can do anything with the power of God.
That's good. Great. So yeah, he deserves a round of clap. So next slide, please. So Elena, what did she achieve? She was able to do linguistic and translation work over there. She was able to conduct Sunday classes for the kids over there. Told them about God's love to them, who really didn't have any idea about who their Creator was, and she was able to share God's love with them, and she was able to live with them for around 17 years. Okay, next slide. And from one of the Khmer tribe later became a pastor, and he testified saying that, your bad legs, because that's how those people call Eleanor as. They call Eleanor as bad legs, because God used your bad legs to bring good news to us when we people over here, although have good legs, struggle to have a life here, going up and down the mountains and valleys, but still God used your bad legs to survive here and to share the good news and to show who God is really to them. Okay. So next slide, please. Eleanor is still active. Although she's not living with the Kimil tribe because she had post-polio syndromes later on, which forced her to leave the tribe, but she's still active with a different work, which means conducting schools and kids magazines, and she's also being a mentor to many other missionaries and helping them to become a successful missionary in the mission field. Next slide, please. So that's how God's glory was revealed through Eleanor when she submitted her weaknesses to God. Next slide. So 1 Corinthians 1:27 says this, but God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. So what does he do? Foolish things to shame the wise, and he uses the weak things to shame the strong. Yeah, do you understand? So what Eleanor's weakness was, he was able to choose that vessel because God knows that this is a weak vessel, and he used that to shame the strong. There were a lot of other people who had everything perfect in their body but still not willing to show God's love to others. But in the midst of them, God chose this weak vessel in order to shame the strong and to spread the good news. Okay? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I've got a little exercise for you guys so that I'm sure all of you know verses from Bible, and all of these are familiar verses. So let's give a try. I'm going to I'm going to read out the first verse. Let's see who could fill up the blanks in the first line. Okay, the papers you can do, but this exercise we will do it aloud. So which means you can read out the missing words to me, or you can tell me the missing blanks from there. So my blank is made perfect in your weakness. What is that blank? Anybody else? Yeah, notice. My weakness is made perfect in your weakness. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. Does that sound right? Yeah? Correct? Agree? Okay, let's move on to the next one. My dash is sufficient for you. My grace is sufficient for you. That's good. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Good, that's good. Okay, next I'm going to read out, I'm going to call out a person, and that person is going to tell me the answer. So where were we? Fourth one, is it? So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your Lord. Okay, that's fine. Now, Hannah will give me the answer, yeah? For the next one. Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. That's good. The one who is in you is dash than the one who is in the world. Who is in the world? Who is the ruler of this world? Satan. So the one who is in you, who is within you? Jesus. So Jesus who is in you is dash than Satan who is in this world. Greater. That's good. Got it? That's good. You're quite good at the memory verses, I think. So that's fine. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. So you're going to next talk about a character from the Bible who's King Hezekiah. So everybody, I guess you're all familiar with this king. Yes or no? Have you heard about this king? King Hezekiah, who is king of Judah. Okay? So I've picked up the references, so that's the references from where this story comes from. So that's from 2 Chronicles 32. If you have time, you can go home and read that, and from 1 Kings 18 and 19. Next slide, please. So Hezekiah was the first king since David who kept Lord's commandment. I guess in one of the slides in the previous days, where we saw that there were a lot of evil kings and there were a lot of good kings. And one such good king was King Hezekiah, because why? Why is he a good king? Because he followed Lord's commandment and he restored the worship for the people and to honor the true God. Okay? Eric? Is Hezekiah a good king or a bad king? Good. Yeah, next slide, please. And then what happened one day is there was a mighty opposite, or an enemy ruler who was trying to capture all parts of the countries in near him, and he was also targeting Judah. And that king name is from Assyria. And what is that king name? Sennacherib. Okay? So Sennacherib king from Assyria, he wants to capture King Hezekiah's kingdom. Yeah. No. So it's a different story but a different battle. Okay? So when King Hezekiah, he was targeting, King Sennacherib was targeting King Hezekiah's kingdom, when he was camping around the Jerusalem or Judah, what happened is the people in there, they all were terrified because they knew that King Sennacherib is a very powerful ruler and has not lost any war, and he has always won the battle. And so they were all very worried because they knew that King Sennacherib will always win, and they will also win this battle against them. But then what happened, what did King Hezekiah do? Was King Hezekiah also was scared, and did he run away? Do you think he must have ran away from the battle or ran away from facing King Sennacherib? No? No. So let's read the next slide. What did King Hezekiah do is, next slide please, is he told his people not to worry, not to be frightened, not to get scared, because he said that our God is mightier than King Assyria, and he has greater power with greater power than who is in King Assyria, because King Assyria was not a follower of the true God. And so King Hezekiah believed and trusted God so much that he was so strong, and he was so strong in his faith that God will never let him down, and he will never let King Assyria to win the battle. Okay, so next slide, please. And so what happened is, next slide, please. King Sennacherib, when he came to know that King Hezekiah believed in God and he was not scared about him, of him coming against them to battle, he sent his people to King Hezekiah and to his people, saying that, do you not know that God will not deliver you from the hand of me, because I am the mightier, and there's no other God who has already helped them to win the battle against him. Okay? So what he's trying to do here, what King Sennacherib is trying to do here, he's trying to make the people not to have faith in God. Is that right? You agree? He's trying to defile the name of the God, saying that your God cannot save you from my hands, because I'm more mighty than any other God in this world. Yeah? So when somebody is coming against you and is trying to bring you down, saying that, trying to bring down the faith that you have in God, and when you see with your own eyes that the battle is near you, the challenge is near you, what do you think? Do you think you will still be able to trust God in such challenges and in such situations? When the people around you are trying to overcome you, will you be able to hold on to Jesus and to trust God? It's quite difficult, right? But let's see what King Hezekiah did after this. So after this, King Hezekiah, he did not give up on God. He cried and he trusted God more than before. And he said, like, God, I know that you are mightier than anybody else in this world or a king, and you will be able to deliver us. So he stood steadfast in his faith, and he was so strong in his faith and hope, and he did not give up his faith in midst of the challenges and the situation that was coming against him. And do you know what God did? Did God let Hezekiah down and his people? How do you think that God would have fought the battle for them? Yeah. He sent an angel. So imagine, next slide, that God did not allow them itself to fight for the battle physically, but he himself came down and he fought the battle for themselves on their behalf, and he made them to win the battle. Is that not a big miracle that you could expect or think about? Ajay, what happened? I'm talking about a big miracle and you are now going to sleep. Is that making you to sleep? So what miracle did God do? What was the miracle? The angel of the Lord himself came down and struck down all the opponents of all the people from the opposite or the opponent army, and God himself fought the battle for whom?
For us.
For us? In the story, for whom?
For the people.
King Hezekiah or King Azariah?
Hezekiah.
Azariah.
No, Hezekiah.
Hezekiah.
Yeah.
So when King Hezekiah prayed, because he knew that the challenge that he's going to face is beyond his control and beyond his might, what did God do? He himself came down looking at the faith that they had, they had for God, and God himself came down and fought the battle for them and made them to win the battle. And what happened to King Sennacherib after that? He returned with shame to his own land, but he was killed by his own sons. Is that not a very big shame for King Azariah, who came boldly to say that, no, come and fight with me. Nobody in this world can save you from me. When he said that word, what you would have felt? If some mighty army or a situation that is mightier or is something that you cannot control by yourself, when you have to face such situation, what will you do? Will you run away without facing it, or what will your response be? Abhishek, what will be your response towards a situation which is beyond your control to overcome? Will you fight the battle or will you run away? You'll run away. Sorry? Who was killed? Well, you're asking me the story again. So the question is, what will you do when you have to face a challenge that is beyond your control or that is beyond your might to overcome it?
Pray to God.
You trust God or you pray God. That is the way, that is the Christian living is, right? When you face a challenge or a weaknesses in your life, you surrender them to God and you trust God more. The more the weaknesses, the more you trust, because you know who is the strength of your life? Jesus. When you know that who your creator is and who he is what is your identity in him, you become an overcomer and you will win. You will be a winner. Next slide. Next slide, please. So I'm going to summarize them now. Next slide. So we saw two characters, Eleanor and Hezekiah. Both had challenges. What challenge did Eleanor have? She had physical sickness. And what challenge did Hezekiah have? It was an external factor that was giving him a challenge, right? It was not something within himself, but it was something external, I mean, which is too much for him to handle it. But both relied on God, and did God's glory was revealed through them, or did God leave them alone? Did God make them to be a winner or a loser? Winner. So both were a winner, although they had challenges, but did they try to overcome the challenge on their own, or did they depend on God? Depend on God, and they won the victory. They had the victory. So next slide. So when you have the same situation or an impossible situation to face, when you're determined to love and trust God, God promises that He will give you victory at all times and at all places. Next slide. I'm going to give you a small, kind of a challenge where I've listed out all the characters on one side, on the middle. There's all. So it's not in the same order, it's all jumbled up now. You are going to give me the right answer, okay? So weaknesses of each of those characters and how they were used by God eventually when they surrendered their weaknesses. So Moses, what weakness he had? He was not a public speaker, yeah? Agree? And how was he used by God when he surrendered his weakness to God? He led Israel from Egypt, so he became a winner. Agree? Sorry? Okay, let's talk about the next character, Daniel. So how was he weakened? He was put into a lion's den. And how did God use him when, before that, what did Daniel do when he was thrown into lion's den? Did he give up or did he lose his faith? He trusted God. And because of that, how was he used by God? He became governor of Babylon. Yeah. Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. What were the weakness? How are they weakened? They were weakened by thrown into fire. And they were saved from fire. Okay, I'm going to ask somebody else. Praise. Peter, what was his weakness? You can't read from here. Come, quick. What was the weakness for Peter? I'll read it out. Disqualified, lion's den.
Peter's weakness was being a coward.
Okay.
And then
How was
he
used
was
by God?
he was taken to heaven.
No.
Okay, covered is not quite right from the options that's being given. So the options are disqualified. I don't know if I've made it
Coward.
right.
You said coward.
Yes, I said coward.
Yeah.
First one.
Covered. Actually, I had that for some other option. So basically, he was disqualified in the sense like I actually wanted to put something like where he was not qualified. He was a fisherman, right?
Yeah.
But did God use him? He used him to speak boldly among millions of people. And how did the people testify? They said like, Peter and John, are they not ignorant? Are they not somebody who doesn't know anything because they were just fishermen? But they came to know because they were with Jesus that they were able to do marvelous things for God by standing boldly and talking about the gospel. Okay? All right, thanks, Praise. Next, Joel, I want you to tell me about Elijah. So what was his weakness? What was Elijah's weakness from here? Huh? No idea. Elijah, he feared for Jezebel and he went and hid himself, right? Saying like, Lord, I cannot do this anymore. So he had the fear of death because Jezebel was trying to kill all the prophets at that time, and she was also targeting Elijah. But how did God use him? He did not die. He was taken up into heaven by the chariots of fire. So, yeah. Next is Joseph. Ivansika? Joseph, what was his weakness? He was thrown into pit. Good. How was he used then? Did his life end there?
Governor in Egypt. Governor in Egypt.
He became governor in Egypt. David was a small boy and he won. That's good. Gideon was covered and he was called as mighty man of valor. So you can see how the characters from the Bible, they were all weak vessels. They had their own weaknesses, but still when they had this love and trust in God, and so God did not leave them or forsake them, but instead used them and made them to be a winner. Yeah? Ajay. Got it? Okay, next slide. I think we are running out of time. What I want to do is actually, you've been given paper, right? I want you to quickly take 1 minute and write down all the weaknesses or challenges you think you have that is stopping you from being a winner. List down all the challenges that you have or the weaknesses that you have. It could be anything. I've just listed out few over here, but it could be anything that you think that is in you that is stopping you from becoming a winner. Quick. Abhishek, write it down. You're a winner. You don't have any weaknesses. No, the first step is acknowledging that you have weaknesses. Only when you acknowledge that you have weaknesses, you will surrender that weaknesses to God. So you have iniquities, right? Write it down. You don't have to share it with anybody. It's going to be personal one. So write it quickly and keep it with yourself. Done? Write it down, Ajay. Finished? You just have one. Done? Everybody's done? Okay. Keep it with yourself. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, what happens when you focus on your challenges? When you focus on your challenges, you start giving excuses, yeah? You start giving excuses to God, saying that you cannot do this because you have so and so weaknesses within you. So what I would request you all to do is not to focus or to meditate on your challenges or weaknesses, but instead shift your focus on to whom do you have to shift your focus? To Jesus. Everybody has shortcomings, everybody has weaknesses, and that's why we are here in this world. And so we have to acknowledge that we have weaknesses, but when you surrender the weaknesses to God, you are shifting your focus to Jesus, and that means when Jesus comes in within you, you will become a winner. So next slide, please. So as I said, don't let your challenges define you, but then let Jesus define who you are. And who you are in Jesus is what we have that in that thumbnail. So you are blessed, you've been called to be righteous, you are being forgiven, you've been given strength. So you know who you are in Jesus, right? So you do not let your challenges to overcome you, but let Jesus to overcome your challenges. Next slide, please. So as you see, as we read from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 to 2, praise. Nathaniel, what are the bold letters? Can you read out the bold letters for me, Nathaniel?
Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Fix our eyes on Jesus.
So what you have to do, there are two things to do over here. What should we do? Throw away everything, which means what are they? Weaknesses, challenges, your circumstances that's against you. So throw away everything and your sin and fix your eyes
Fix your
on
eyes.
Jesus. When you do that, you will become a winner. Next slide. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a small prayer. So you have your weaknesses written on your paper, right? Yeah? What you're going to do is you're going to put the weaknesses, or you're going to put your hand on those weaknesses, and we're going to do this small little prayer, and we're going to finish it off. Yeah? Shall we all do that? We're going to say that, Lord, we're going to give these weaknesses into your hands, and I'm going to rely on you. Shall we all do that? Yeah? Okay, let's close our eyes, and I want to hear each one of your voices and repeat after me. Okay? Lord Jesus, I accept and I acknowledge that I have these weaknesses. I beg your pardon because I can't hear you all, please. I've been holding on to these weaknesses and trying to overcome them by my own strength. I today realize that it's not by my might, nor by my power, but by your Spirit, I'm going to be an overcomer. I'm surrendering my weaknesses into your loving hands. Use me and let your name be glorified through me and through my weaknesses. In Jesus Christ I pray. Amen. Thank you all for listening, and hope you've taken something from today's session and you will become an overcomer. Thank you.
All right, everyone. So we are breaking for lunch. So let's all stand up and we'll